Recorded Books and RB Digital present Separate, the story of Plessy versus Ferguson and America's journey from slavery to segregation, by Steve Luxenberg, narrated by Donald Corren. Author's Note. Where should I sit? A simple question, really. The same question that confronts me every time I board the commuter train that shuttled me between my home in Baltimore and my job in Washington for the better part of 26 years. If I'm late, and if this is an evening rush-hour train, I'll be lucky to find any seat at all, let alone an aisle seat that will allow me extra room to stretch out my long legs. Not every passenger accepts this invasion of personal space with politeness or a neighborly smile. For the most part, though, there's an unspoken understanding that we're better off if we get along. There's no way to avoid the press of humanity. No first class for the well-heeled traveler willing to pay for extra comfort. No business class for those accustomed to the expense account. Young or old, black or white, worker or boss, woman or man, it makes no difference. We all share the same status, at least for as long as our ride lasts. The conductors weave their way through the crowded aisles, checking tickets and occasionally selling one. While doing my initial research for this book, I tried to imagine them on a train at the end of the 19th century, complying with the new requirement in many southern states to direct white and black passengers to separate cars. Those laws gave conductors the authority of a judge and the power of a police officer. They had the responsibility to decide a person's race, although the separate car laws generally offered no specific definitions for black or white. And then they had the legal obligation to enforce their split-second decision. If they didn't, they faced criminal penalties themselves. Writing about the 19th century, a time and place both foreign and familiar to anyone living today, requires choices. For the sake of historical accuracy, and consistent with my goal of telling the story through the eyes of its participants, I have often elected to use the language of their time, as it appeared in their personal letters, documents, diaries, and newspapers. Labels such as colored and mulatto were mainstays in the 19th century, used by white and black alike. Words that we have rightly condemned as slurs were more common in print as well. In quoting them, which I do sparingly, I am seeking to reflect the speaker's meaning, mindset, or intent. If readers are offended, I ask their understanding. My aim is to learn from our past, and in my experience, authenticity helps serve that cause better than pretense or omission. Steve Luxenberg, Baltimore, January 2019. Prologue. April 1896. At his spacious home in the quiet town of Mayville, nestled in the farthest corner of western New York State, Albion Tourgee looked at his co-counsel's 2-page letter with disbelief. "There is some chance that the case will be argued tomorrow," read the message from Washington. What? Tomorrow? Tourgee glanced again at the date on the letter. April 1st, 1896. Tomorrow? There was no tomorrow. It was Friday, April 3rd. Tomorrow was now yesterday. If the oral arguments in the Supreme Court lawsuit known as Plessy versus Ferguson had taken place the day before, then Tourgee had missed perhaps the most important oration of his career, one he had spent more than 3 years preparing to give. Impossible, outrageous, unforgivable. Cold fury could be felt in every word of his hurriedly composed note to the Supreme Court clerk's office, an icy, personal anger built upon 3 decades of disappointment with the North of his birth and its failure to erect a citadel of civil rights from the ashes of the Civil War. "I have been ready for the hearing for 3 months, waiting every day to know when it would probably be reached," he thundered, "but have never heard a word from you." With a characteristic flush of hyperbole, he rushed on. "I represent an association of about 10,000 colored men of Louisiana who raised the money to prosecute these and other cases."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?